The Sherlock Holmes Advent Calendar. An Odyssey to Jerusalem. By Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and Nora Godwin. Narrated by Bryan Godwin. Part 23. The Path of Suffering. I raised my arm again with the pistol and pointed it at the alleged kidnapper. "Leave the jokes, Holmes," I said resolutely. "This is truly not the right moment." My friend shook his head. "I rarely joke," he noted, "and there is by no means a humorous comment on my part. I'm serious. Salah and Aaron are not prisoners, but accomplices." Nevertheless, I kept my sights on the third man sitting at the table, while the two alleged hostages did not move. "Well, Holmes," I replied, "please enlighten me." "Of course, my dear Watson," Holmes began. "I would like to draw your attention to the following circumstances, which you may have missed so far, and underline the actual situation in this basement. As you can see, Salah and Aaron are in no way tied up or gagged. They are casually sitting on their chairs, and Mr. Habash does not threaten the two with a weapon, as a criminal kidnapper might do. He does not even keep a special distance from his victims. Last but not least, I would like to mention the wine bottle at the table. It bears a Hebrew label. Which Arab hostage-taker would be so accommodating as to serve his Jewish victim with kosher wine? No, Watson, our two accomplices here are not victims. They are here voluntarily, and Mr. Habash, who owns this house, is also not a kidnapper. He is merely their host." The information provided by my friend was intelligible, but I was still not able to fully understand the situation. "What's going on here?" I asked. "What we see here," Holmes continued, "is the leading circle of the Zealot Popular Front in its interconfessional composition: a Muslim Palestinian from Jerusalem, a Jewish settler from Galilee, an Arab Christian from Bethlehem. They are united by resistance to Ottoman rule over the region. That is why they conspired and planned and carried out the known attacks together, with a few accomplices at their side. We probably burst into the middle of an important meeting." I turned in the direction of our local colleague, under whose roof we had lived in Jerusalem. "Salah," I told him, "tell me that none of this is true. You are not really the head of the underground organization that we had to investigate?" "Sorry, Dr. Watson," Salah replied. "Mr. Holmes's assumptions and conclusions are correct." "But why?" I followed up a little desperately. "Why are you doing all this?" "I've already told you that," Salah claimed, at least indirectly. "I am concerned with the common and peaceful future of Palestine, for all people and especially for my own children. Such a future is not possible under the rule of the Ottoman Sultan. I have therefore sought and found allies, even infiltrated the Ottoman authorities and developed strategies. And now we are on the verge of an uprising against the occupiers. You have to forgive that it was necessary to leave you both in the dark." Holmes disagreed. "There is no excuse for lying, threatening, and kidnapping us, although your motives may be explainable. However, it has been clear to me for some time that you have better contacts with the Zealots than an Ottoman official should have." "You've suspected Salah for a long time?" I interjected. "That's right, my dear Watson," Holmes confirmed. "The perpetrators were often one step ahead of us because we had shared everything with Salah. Just think for a second, Watson. He was the only one who knew, before we were abducted to the Jordan Valley, that we were on our way to Mount Zion, where his accomplices lurked on us. It was Salah to whom I had announced that the Ottoman governor would come to visit the Temple Mount, and promptly the Zealots had prepared an attack. To me, that was the decisive test and the real purpose of this production. From that point on, I was finally certain that Salah was in league with the Zealots. And then, finally, his alleged kidnapping from his office, which took the biscuit. In the face of Ottoman military patrols on the streets, which kidnapper would still take the time to trash the premises without any benefit, if it was actually about taking the hostage out of the city unnoticed? That would make no sense. The fact that Salah devastated his own office was not only overkill and too apparent, but also absurd and illogical. The Palestinian rose from his chair and applauded. "Bravo, Mr. Holmes," he said, by no means sarcastic. "You have observed and analyzed all this well. I'm sorry I couldn't offer you a bigger challenge." "Don't worry," Holmes replied. "It was big enough." "Nevertheless, we have reached a dead end," Salah continued. Although you may have convicted me and my two comrades, you will no longer be able to prevent the uprising against Ottoman rule. Now I can tell you that the rebellion will begin on the night of December 25th. You have to blow it off, I immediately shouted. The people of Jerusalem may be outraged and fired up, but against the concentrated military power of the Ottoman army, these people and children with slingshots have no chance. It will end in a horrific bloodbath. As a former soldier of the British Army in Afghanistan, you should actually know more about asymmetric warfare, Salah stated. It's not about an uprising in Jerusalem, but about a fight for the land, which in many places will be a partisan war. The people of Jerusalem are merely a backup, not our vanguard. We will not send these people into a hopeless battle. The war will not be fought in, but around Jerusalem. Our troops are gathering outside, in Gaza and in the Negev desert, near Hebron, in the Galilee, and on the Golan, and on the Jordan River. The Ottoman soldiers in Jerusalem are already encircled without even noticing. Slowly, I realized that there was a better plan here than I had thought. All the attacks in Jerusalem, I noted, were just a red herring. They've never had any other purpose than to focus all the attention on the Ottomans, as well as ours, to the city, while the actual uprising is being prepared all around. I have to admit I am impressed, but still a little infuriated that I was pushed around in this game like a chess figurine. Quite apart from the fact that Holmes and I were lurked into a booby trap a few hours ago. I'm sorry to hear that, Salah replied, but we're not responsible for that. We've always tried not to put your life in danger. We have spared all bystanders. Neither of them are our enemies, not now either. We appreciate that, Holmes said. But it was Natalia who sent us into the escape tunnel that led us directly into the booby trap, and if I'm right, then the Zealots are allied with the Russians. Salah nodded. Of course, a successful resistance organization needs international allies, including Russia. But I can assure you that it was not the Okrana who sought after your lives. This attack is the fault of the Ottomans, although actually not both of you were the targets, but members of your group. The Ottomans mined our underground passages. Natalia will be happy to confirm this to you personally. The Palestinian moved away from the table and went to the only door in the basement room to open it. The next moment, Natalia actually stepped in. Dobry den, she said with a cool undertone. Dr. Watson, Mr. Holmes, I am pleased to see you again safely. Salah tells the truth. The Ottomans deposited the explosives at the exit of the Temple Mount tunnel. I didn't know anything about it before. As a representative of the Tsar's government, I had the strict instruction not to endanger the both of you. Extremely considerate of Tsar Nicholas, I commented. Are we complete then? Or are there other international representatives associated with the Zealot Popular Front? Is there perhaps an envoy of the Emperor of China waiting outside the door? The latter is not to be assumed, Holmes interfered again. But there is no doubt that other major European powers are involved in this conspiracy against the Ottomans. The Zealots have intelligence knowledge, relevant material, and financial resources, and, last but not least, sufficient weapons to raise an army in Palestine waiting for their marching orders in Hebron. With all due respect to the Russian drive, but this is not only the work of a few agents of the Okrana. Who else is on board? Salah took a clearly audible deep breath, then declared, Mr. Holmes, some questions should not be asked. In any case, I cannot give you an answer to that at this stage. Nevertheless, I assure you that you will receive an answer soon. That must be enough for the time being. Before Holmes could react, there was a knock at the door. Ah, finally, I shouted jokingly. This will be the Chinese Secret Service. Just keep coming in. When the door opened, of course, no guest from the Far East entered the room, but a European. The bigger surprise, however, was that Holmes and I already knew the gentleman. It was Mr. Thomas Lawrence, the British envoy we had met at Jerusalem's Christ Church. Good evening, Mr. Lawrence, I said immediately. Do you also want to take part in a conspiratorial uprising? Our compatriot hesitated briefly, then he said, Thank you for the kind offer, Dr. Watson, but I renounce. What a pity, I replied. May I still raise the question of what you're doing here? I'm coming to warn you, Mr. Lawrence explained. Mr. Habash and the young Mr. Aaron have probably been observed by the Ottomans for some time. Currently, a military unit is on its way here to arrest the two. Holmes made a suspicious face and replied, Now it may be that the Ottoman Secret Service is well informed and takes appropriate steps, but how do you know about it, and why did you know where to find us? I was not done yet, Lawrence continued. Mr. Salah's children have come with me. Their mother was arrested. My wife? Shouted the Palestinian. Why? They haven't heard her, have they? I'm afraid, my dear Salah, Holmes said. You too have been tracked down. Presumably, the Ottoman authorities now want to use Miriam as a means of exerting pressure. Lawrence nodded. Indeed, he confirmed. I asked in my capacity as a British representative and even got the opportunity to talk to Miriam. She gave me this clandestine address. She is doing well. The children are safe in the Anglican mission. Unlike you are accused of participating in a conspiracy. Salah fell into his chair, discouraged. We weren't careful enough, he murmured. Now all is lost. We are lost. Not yet, Holmes replied, after a short reflection. First of all, you all have to disappear and leave Bethlehem. The Sultan's soldiers will soon be here. Wouldn't it actually be our job, I asked provocatively, to arrest these gentlemen in accordance with the government's mandate instead of helping them escape? My friend looked at me with a serious face and declared, I don't know about you, my dear Watson, but I don't want to and can't take responsibility for the extradition of these people to the Ottoman authorities. But our mission is clearly defined, I insisted again. Your own brother gave us the instructions. We cannot act against the explicit requirements of the British government. Holmes disagreed. And if it were an order from the Queen herself, he replied calmly, as far as it concerns me, Mycroft and the government bureaucrats, pardon the harsh language, can go to hell. Did you not learn anything during our stay in Palestine, Watson? Have you never doubted whether we are on the right side? Well, now's the time to take a stand. You hold the gun in your hand, you are in charge. Decide. Either you make an arrest here and now in the sense and on behalf of the Ottoman authorities, or you help me to resolve the situation without major suffering. There I was, caught between a sense of duty towards the crown and the fatherland, or at least towards their government, and my own conscience, which, in fact, was also influenced by other emotions. With the pistol in my outstretched hand, I looked at Holmes again in doubt. Then I looked into the assembled round of conspirators. Finally, I made a decision and ordered, Get up, we're leaving.